This story is called Incident in a Town Called Duped. It's inspired by a true story about experiences with a popularly used dopamine agonist called Pramipexol. Once upon a time, there were 11 ailing beings who lived in a small town called Duped. They were respectable people: doctors, teachers, parents, business owners, ministers, firefighters, and police officers. One day, a stranger entered the town and saw them suffering. He said he had a cure for them, a pill that could make them feel much better. The 11 beings were so miserable they would do anything to feel better, so they all paid the stranger and took the pills, and he went on his merry way. After a time, each was so pleased with the magic pill that they told the town beings about it. Soon word spread throughout the town, and those with similar ailments came together to take the medicine. Eventually, there were 33 beings in this town gathered in the center, all marveling over the results. Their families were pleased. Time passed, and some of the beings began to notice that beings weren't gathering together like they used to. They didn't look as pleased as they were before. They didn't know that inside 11 houses, a terrible change had taken place. In the houses of the first 3 beings, the sufferers snuck out into the shadows of the night to a casino in the neighboring town. There, night after night, they played the games and lost their money. In the morning, they returned to their sleeping families and lie in bed, miserable with guilt and remorse over what they had done, and spent the day sleepy and grumpy, plagued with thoughts of winning back what they'd lost that night. In the house of the next 3 beings, things were different. These beings found themselves overwhelmed with thoughts about sex. They hid in the shadows, doing things they never imagined doing in public. They spent days and nights poring over pictures that may have made them sick before. One being even ended up in jail. These beings hid away in their house, immersed in shame and guilt, sad and confused, and very, very alone. In the houses of the next 3 beings, darkness also struck. These beings spent their days endlessly buying items on the shopping channel and online auctions and wondering what to do with the 27 pants and the 13 rings they had bought. They spent hours returning items to stores only to use the money to buy more. Their houses were filled with useless gadgets and trinkets, and their bank accounts dwindled. Depression overtook them, and they tried to stop. Their self-defeat kept them searching for more sales to ease the pain. And the last 2 beings ate and ate and ate. They had been very fit before, but they found themselves hooked on a flavor and wanting more. The only way to stop was to change the flavor, and then they became hooked on that as well. And as they ate, they gained more and more weight and became more and more unhealthy, and they didn't know how to stop. The 11 beings hid themselves in shame, not wanting to tell their friends and family what they had done, afraid of what their doctors, counselors, and ministers would think. All 11 beings lost their jobs, and several lost their houses. Several lost their families as well. Depression and confusion overwhelmed them. They felt that the goodness inside them had been replaced by evil. Some of them even tried to end their lives to save their families from their curse. Sadly, one did. The rest of the village didn't know what to do to help their friends. Some watched in disgust, others in pain, and some just wondered why the beings just didn't help themselves. They couldn't figure out any way that they could help their friends. One day, a being came running with news from outside their town. It seemed a study had been done by a medical clinic that found that as many as 1 in 3 beings taking the miracle drug had developed impulse control problems. The remaining 10 sufferers heard the news and immediately threw away the drug. Within a few weeks, their compulsive behaviors went away, and they were more like themselves again. Sadly, it was too late to repair the damages that had been done to them and their families. Plagued with flashbacks and fear of loss of self-control, the shame and agony were still with most of them. It was then that the stranger who made the miracle pills returned to town. The 10 remaining sufferers approached the stranger and told him what had happened. He listened impatiently as they told their stories, and finally they asked, "Did you know that this could happen?" The stranger pulled them together as if he wished to tell them a secret. "Yes, I did," he admitted unconcerned. "But you were the ones who didn't read the literature before you took the medicine." The remaining beings took out their original boxes and dumped them. Nothing came out. "There's no literature in these boxes," they said. The stranger was busy counting his money. "There is now. It came out after you'd been taking the medicine for a while." "Why didn't you tell us?" they cried in disbelief. "It's not my responsibility to tell everyone who takes this medicine about the minor effects that could occur. Any side effects that affect the small population of people are reported on the inserts," he said defiantly. Incredulous, the beings ran to the drugstore to get the new literature. It had thousands of words on it in very little type. They each took turns scouring the page with magnifying glasses until they found the warning. Anecdotal reports have shown that some individuals may have experienced compulsive behaviors such as compulsive gambling, compulsive sex, compulsive shopping, and compulsive eating. They went back to the stranger, who was sleeping with his money. "But you didn't tell us until after we were already taking it. We lost so much. Can't you help us?" The stranger pretended to be asleep and snored. The beings walked away sadly, but one remained. And after a while the stranger opened one eye and saw the one remaining being. He whispered in his ear, "I will give you back a tiny bit of what you've lost, but you have to promise never to tell anyone else about that, and also not to tell anyone about what you experienced." The being felt guilty. He didn't want to be the only one who got something back, but he needed the money so badly. He had to agree. He took the money and left his beloved town and his friends. The stranger moved on to the other towns and cities to sell more miracle pills. And the Mirapex maker, the miracle pill maker, lived happily ever after. If you or someone you know is taking Mirapex, Requip, or Pramipexol, or generic form of this drug, and are displaying behavior that is not normal, such as lying, depression, abnormal guilt, extreme sensitivity, or defensiveness, please contact the doctor at once. The person taking the drug is most often not aware of the problem or too ashamed to talk about it. It is up to family and friends to help. For more information, go to www.pharmagonewild.org. Don't think it won't happen to you. We thought that too. The point of this story is not to cause pain or make fun of anyone who is suffering from the effects of taking Mirapex.